My name is Monica Main, and I'm going to go through what I call my cash flow evaluator, which is an Excel spreadsheet that's going to show you exactly how to get the cash flow from a potential commercial property deal that you'd like to do to determine whether or not it's a deal that you would like to do or like to pursue. So here's the cash flow evaluator, and I'm going to go through a sample deal that I found on LoopNet, and you could very well do this yourself by going through the LoopNet system or any online system, or you could actually analyze any deal that you get from a listing agent and basically plug in some basic numbers. Now you can see this is Crystal Creek in Dallas, Texas. It's 217 units for $3.9 million, and it's got a 66% occupancy level and an over a 10% cap rate. I will tell you, if you're trying to do a no money down deal, you're going to need a cap rate of 9 or above to be able to make it work with no money down. So we have this deal, and the reason I picked this deal is because it has enough information down here, which is critical to be able to plug in information through the cash flow evaluator. Now, if you do not have all this information, you're going to have to ask the agent by contacting the agent through this means right here to be able to get this information. You do need, in the very basic, the effective gross income, which is right here. You do not want the scheduled gross income. You want the effective gross income, the operating expenses, and of course the net operating income. So if you have this basic information here, I prefer that you get the actual numbers rather than pro forma numbers. But later on, if you are interested in the deal and it works on the cash flow evaluator, then you might want to contact the listing agent to be able to get the actual numbers and not the pro forma numbers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this information, and I sort of pre-filled in a lot of this information just to go through this a little bit more quickly. And so I already put the rentable square feet, the amount of units here, the year built, the effective age, and the actual age, which 9 times out of 10 are usually the same. The actual and the effective age are usually the same. Sometimes the effective age will be slightly less than the actual age depending on the wear and tear of the actual building itself. 66% occupancy level. I plugged in the purchase price, and you don't really have to worry about a lot of this detail here. You do need to put something down here just to be able to do this basic analysis, but you don't have to really worry about it so much. So you need to obviously put the purchase price. 0% down is what you're trying to go for. Your loan points are on average about 3%. So we're going to put in this information, the gross potential rental income calculator. What you want to do is go back into the listing, and you want to go into your effective gross income, which is 1349898. 1349898. Okay, so we have that information. I already plugged in the information on the unit mix here, which you would find right here. See, unit mix information. And again, not all listings are going to have all of this information, and sometimes you're going to have to ask the listing agent to give this information to you. But this particular listing does have this information. So we go back to the financial summary. And again, I had already plugged in the unit mix information here. So mainly concentrate on these yellow boxes right here. Here's a yellow box, here's a yellow box, and we're going to go ahead. Later on, you're going to itemize all the expenses, but only after you determine whether or not this is a deal you're going to do. So only mainly concentrate on your lump sum, which is again another yellow box. And your lump sum for your operating expense is going to be $945,886. So we have $945,886. Okay. So again, later on, if you determine that this is a good deal, you're going to go ahead and go back and fill all of this in when you get the information from the listing agent, because this information is usually not online. It's going to be something that you would get later on. Okay, and then we are able to, after all of this plugging in the information, again, I only did the purchase price, you know, your gross income, and then your expenses, and then I'm able to get the cash flow. Here it is. Annual cash flow is a little over $311,000 a year, and the monthly cash flow is of course broken down. It's $26,000 a year, and our DCR is 2.8, which is pretty good. And so basically, if you want to get a loan these days, you need to make sure that your DCR is at least 1.25 or above. And of course, the only problem that I see with this particular deal is that it's a 66% occupancy level. Most banks will not fund you unless you have 85% or above. So let's take a look at the tabs at the bottom. We have the cash flow evaluator right here, which is the 4th tab in. You have the Speedy price finder, which is basically a summary of the entire deal. What we have here is the $25,000 per million asking price. That's the basic cash flow that I'd like to see in a property deal, $25,000 per $1 million in asking price. So since the asking price is $3.9 million, you want a little under $100,000 in annual cash flow for this deal. So this is the actual price, this $12 million, which would support the cash flow. So this is actually a pretty decent deal. The problem with this deal, of course, though, is that these numbers are not real because, as you could see, if I pointed it out correctly, these are pro forma numbers, which means that these are the numbers that you get if you actually had a decent occupancy level. You'd actually have to ask the listing agent what occupancy level he did these on, but these are not the actual numbers. So this deal would look pretty good if it was at, say, a 95% occupancy level, which is what I'm assuming he did these numbers based on, but you need to get the actual numbers to determine what the actual deal is about. But this is a good deal and something that you'd want to pursue, but again, since the occupancy level is so low, these numbers are not accurate. So this would be something that you would look at as far as trying to pursue to get this property deal under your belt. So that's basically how the cash flow evaluator works. It's not an overly complicated process. You just basically plug in the purchase price, you plug in the gross income, you plug in the gross expenses, and then you get your cash flow right here, and then at that point you can determine whether or not it's a deal that you want to pursue and get additional information from. But again, this particular deal, because it's based on pro forma numbers and not actual numbers, you have to go back to the listing agent to get the real numbers on the deal and then reassess the property at that time. So again, this is Monica Main signing off, and I hope this tutorial has benefited you in understanding how this cash flow evaluator works.